What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the weekly College Football After Dark show here on the Voice of College Football. I'm Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam. I'm back in the country, not traveling right now. We got a good show to talk about. We have conference champions to talk about. The playoffs are up, and bowl season's coming up, and those are still very important. So let's not downplay the bowl season here. But let's go on. John, introduce yourself in the panel. Let's go.
Hi, I'm John Diadamo, aka One Scoop John. I'm a Michigan fan, the Big Ten Championship winning University of Michigan Wolverines, and I also help run the outline. So that's me.
Am I next?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tony Altimore. I USC and Penn alum and host of the Pac-12 chat show along with Tim and LBC down below. And we also help Mark with the USC post-game live. So it's great to see you guys back. Thanks, everybody who joined us over the weekend.
What's going on, guys? It's Jordan, Clemson alumnus, aspiring two-time Clemson alumnus. And I'm also the host of the Clemson Voice of College Football, co-host of Clemson Voice of College Football channel. So happy that you guys were able to join us.
I'm Mike Ford. I am a proud Wolverine alum, Go Blue, and I'm just here taking up space.
Hi, everyone. USC alum, Tim Prangley. Thanks for being here.
Notre Dame fan, Will ND. Happy to be here.
Michigan fan, and Michigan's better than Notre Dame, and I'm happy to be here.
Hey, I'm Tide Guy. I'm Alabama. Looking in the chat room, I guess I'm in SEC West, the worst conference. It's only won, 8 titles in 12 years. You know, that terrible conference that we are, but roll Tide.
And I'm Rick. I go by LBC Trojan. And as Tony mentioned, I'm on the USC show and the Pac-12 Live show. And no, this is not a Notre Dame hat. If you're a golfer, this is a Live Lucky hat. And so this is with respect to the Ohio State Buckeyes. We had the best backdoor cover ever. Congratulations, Buckeyes, on making the college football playoff. Right on.
Well, I guess I need to follow this back up. I'm just a sad Oregon fan. We can't finish the season off. And I help host the Oregon postgame show. But anyways, John, the man of the hour as usual.
Hey. All right, so we have a absolute metric ton to talk about today. So let's get started with conference championship chaos. We had going into this weekend, I was like, I could see conventional wisdom, would probably take some hits, but I didn't think that it was going to take as many hits the first couple of games. But we started off with Utah beating USC, and we actually had Rick and Tim, who were on location at the Allegiant Stadium. And I would love to hear, how was that experience at the stadium for those people who weren't watching the videos earlier, or maybe they had stuff to do and this is their first time hearing about it.
I'm not really a huge fan of indoor stadiums, but I'll tell you what, if you're going to have one, Allegiant Stadium is beautiful. It didn't seem cavernous. It felt to me almost smaller than Staples Arena, strangely enough. It was a really friendly environment. Utah fans, as always, complete class. The entertainment was first class. You're in Vegas, so you expect all the show and the pizzazz, and it was all there. So it did not disappoint until kickoff.
Hey, real quick, Tenn, did you show up on time?
I was there. I was on time.
Okay.
I was there with Rick early on, nice and early, and we kind of walked into the arena with plenty of time.
I think it was my first time there. I thought it was a great stadium. The sight lines, the crowd was electric. It was a lot of fun. And I highly recommend it. The Vegas Bowl, I believe, is going to be Oregon State versus Florida. I know Florida doesn't get out of the Southeast very often, but this is, an actual game that's west of the Mississippi. I think the last time they were out here was in the Freedom Bowl, maybe in 1987. So This would be worth your ticket, Florida people, to come out to the Vegas Bowl, spend a few days on the Strip, Great time.
December 17th, 7:30 p.m. So come on down. Yeah, check out Vegas if you haven't. It's a good time. But within the game, and I know that some people, you guys obviously host a show, did the post game and everything, so some people remember that. The first quarter seemed to be going great when Caleb was rolling and he was uninjured, for the most part, right? And then obviously you kind of saw what one impact player can do when they themselves are impacted later in the game. So what happened with the tackling? Because Alex Grinch, I have a lot of respect for. I've said this on the show like a bazillion times. And I just something seemed like, does anybody have any intel or any ideas there?
Well, Utah has one of the best offenses in the country.
And there's that.
And through 3 quarters and into the fourth quarter, they had only scored 24 points. They and USC, I know it's hard to believe, but about 5 minutes into the fourth quarter, it was a 3-point game. Some people kind of lose track of that. I'm not gonna go full. We know someone in the community that talks about if you get blown out in the fourth quarter doesn't count. I'm not gonna say that. We still got blown out.
There's a whole fan base that says that, at least in the last 2 weeks.
We're
and I think none were on here.
But it was a great stat from I don't know if it was Shotgun Spratling or Chris Tavino, but they basically said USC had 14 missed tackles the previous 3 games. So through UCLA, through Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame has a good rush attack that we tackled very well in that game. UCLA is amazing offense, one of the best offenses in the country, and they weathered those really well. But for some unknown reason, that fourth quarter, they missed close to a dozen tackles, almost as many as they'd done in the entire 3 games leading up to it.
And the other thing,
they missed 25 tackles in that game, 25, which was
Wow.
crazy.
The other thing, and I've heard some of the commentators talked about this on other post game stuff, but this is the thing I really noticed as well. Like scheme wise, like people are like, oh, scringe, but scheme wise, our guys were in the right place. They had their arms around the dude, and the dude didn't go to the ground. Like it was a people performance problem, not a coaching and scheming problem.
And I try to talk about that on Mark's. Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I was just saying, I'm not going to make excuses. We all saw what we saw. It was 17-17 at halftime. Part of, I think, the issue was we couldn't run the ball, which would keep the ball away from Utah. That was important. But Caleb stayed in the game, but they knew he was hurt. So basically, they didn't have to respect the RPO. They just came after the running back. But you take a look at it, no other team played 3 consecutive ranked teams in a row. And I think that eventually took a toll in the second half against USC. It's football. It's physical.
Who, by the way,
mental.
are all still ranked.
And it was a short week. We played on a Friday. So you play against UCLA on the road, Notre Dame at home, and then have to play against Utah on a short week. That perhaps what could have happened, what we saw in the fourth quarter. They were just missing tackles.
So do we
but
think,
you compare that to Ohio State at home. A week before, Ohio State's at home, and they give up. We saw what they gave up: 5 touchdowns over 45 yards. So perhaps they had a short stint of forgetting how to tackle as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, maybe.
No doubt about that.
See, with that game, with the USC game, it was a tackling for me when I was watching it with a little biased. It was all about the tackling. I mean, that was the game for me.
Well, and people again are coming at Grinch pretty hard, and I think you alluded to at the beginning, John. But you have to remember, last year, anyone that watched USC, anyone that knows USC football through the years, and anyone who watched USC's defense last year knows it. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that was the worst USC defense I have ever seen in all the years I've watched USC football. It literally was embarrassing. I mean, it was embarrassing to watch.
Imagine this tackling, but way worse. and also not in position.
They were 98th in the country in scoring defense. This year it wasn't immaculate, but they were 55th in the country. And then we're talking about 55th in scoring when you have offenses like, well, look at the Pac-12. It's full of like Oregons and Washingtons and UCLA's and Utah's. These are all like in the top 5 to 10 in the entire country in offense. And so when you look at when the Big Ten, what do we do? Are the Big Ten defenses that good, or are the Big Ten offenses that bad? Are the Pac-12 defenses that bad, or are the Pac-12 offenses that good? I think you have to look at the whole picture. And anybody wants to tell me that the defenses in the Big Ten are that much greater, I'll say look at some of the offenses, especially in the Big Ten West, right? And if you want to say that the defenses are really bad in the Pac-12, I would say, well, look at the quarterbacks. Get ready in the NFL draft to watch all these guys get drafted that are playing on Saturdays in the Pac-12.
Well, I'll give you an example.
Offenses as well.
One of the weakest quarterbacks in the Pac-12, a dude who's just not good by Pac-12 standards, and this was not good by Pac-12 standards last year.
Jaden Daniels
is all of a sudden a corn dog, and we think he's real good. He's not one of the better quarterbacks in the worst year in the history of the Pac-12. Literally, last year was the worst year in the history of the Pac-12 since it was founded in 1959.
Yeah.
And a very mid to low tier quarterback goes to LSU, and all of a sudden he's good. Guess what? He didn't learn to play that much better in a couple months.
Here's the thing, though. The SEC defense, it used to be the SEC kind of prided themselves on being a defensive conference. They're not.
Or did they just have weak offenses?
Right.
I don't know if they had weak offenses.
Well,
but now
wait a minute, Tony. We can't say because of weak offenses, because then we would go into the championship and we would beat a good offense.
Well, no, I mean, Tide Guy, you had some Pac-12 guys
Notre
going
Dame
to
remembers coming to us.
but Jeff, a lot of when you think about those revamped offenses for Saban, those are USC. Those are Pac-12 guys that came over and revamped you guys' offense.
No, we're talking defense right now, Tim. Offense, yeah, I'll give you that. But what I'm saying is, if your conference plays really great offense, your defense is going to struggle. Okay, if the SEC could play the powerhouse offense, Iowa, boy, that will really help my stat too. I mean, God, let me play Iowa game. My stats are going to go really well. I mean, if your offenses aren't that great, your defenses are going to be good.
And it's not to say that.
Here's the logical next question, going back to our because I want to get back to our wrap up on USC. There's some talk about the Caleb Williams and his Heisman situation. I know this question was later, but I think it makes sense to do it now. Given the fact that a lot of Heisman voters vote early, that's what I understand. That some turn in their votes early. Is there any possible way that Caleb Williams doesn't win the Heisman? Because in my mind, I don't think that game really impacted it too much.
I think that game strengthened, if anything, the view of how good he is and how important he is.
Well, and also remember this, you guys. Okay, so we're talking about what a bad game Caleb had on. Do we think maybe that his performance on Saturday or Friday helped him to lose it? Did anyone realize that he was 28 of 41, 363, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception? 90% of the country would beg for that to be their quarterback's line, and that's him on one leg.
100%. Caleb Williams had a bad game. Who's been saying Caleb Williams had a bad game?
I've been hearing it all. Well, Max Duggan, you kind of made up some ground here.
I mean, Max Duggan's game doesn't mean Caleb Williams had a bad game.
Well, Max Duggan's numbers weren't nearly as good as that.
Well, his numbers in the air weren't that great. He did a lot on the ground, though.
Right.
But I mean, I don't.
Did he rush for 150 yards or something that I missed?
I know he rushed for
like 10.
No, he looked good.
Like 100 something.
Yeah, he looked good. He made some good plays.
He had like one long run and a couple scrambles, but nothing that. Did you guys watch Caleb Williams do that 60-yard run? I mean, I don't.
I did.
I watched those games.
Duggan did about 60 yards also on one. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not debating who wins the Heisman or not.
Also, the Heisman Trophy, I think most voters, unlike most Twitter doofuses, most voters base their Heisman Trophy ballots on more than one game.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm with you, Tony. I'm saying even if we put it on one game, even if we put Duggan also had a horrible interception, in the end zone. That maybe possibly could help them win the game.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I'm just gonna say this about Duggan. He balled. He balled the end of that game, man.
he
He
did.
ran down. He was the offensive production running the ball for the last, I don't know, it was like right at the end of the game when their last drive, he ran the ball basically to the end zone, 10 yards, 15, 20 yards, fighting at a time. I mean,
But see, that's the problem though with the Heisman voting. You look at the Heisman voting. I've said this all year long. With the AP voting, we got problems with voting in college football because you don't have a set rule on how to vote, when to vote. Mark mentioned today that there were some voters that came in 2 to 3 weeks ago. Now, why is that fair? Why did you say, there's still 3 games and this and that, we need the voters to say, okay, it's either got to be in on this date and don't send it in early, do your job, watch the games, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
Is it a problem? I mean, is it first of all, how many of you are in communication with the Deloitte team that evaluates them to know what was turned on? You know what was sent in when?
Well, I used to be an auditor, but no, I don't have any connections at Deloitte.
Okay. So from what I understand, no one actually knows when they were turned in.
Well,
people are hearing from Twitter that
that's what I said. That's what I'm hearing, that it's been reported that people are sending them in 2 to 3 weeks early, and if that is the case, that is the problem.
By who?
There are others that have. There are, and this kind of reminds me.
Mark just mentioned it this afternoon. Mark,
right? It kind of reminds me. It reminds me of the 2016.
We make a lot of assumptions in this world, in this football world, that come off like somebody heard from somebody who saw it on a message board, and Big Game Boomer made a list. Yeah. Like, and that's.
But you have to admit, Tony, there are a lot of voters who turned their ballot in before the championship games.
I don't know that that's a problem because it's a season-long thing.
Well, that's pretty common, though.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it is a problem
because here's the thing.
Certain situations. Because
again, in certain situations, fine, but it's their vote to decide. It's their vote to decide whether it's a problem for them, and nobody has the information from Deloitte as to when this stuff was being turned in. So this seems to me like a very non-data focused, like circuitous debate over not a thing.
Wait, Jordan, what were you going to say?
Sorry, Jordan.
Because I'm using an example. It reminded me of the 2016 season. When Lamar Jackson won the Heisman that year, and there were multiple voters that past voters that came out and stated that when there was one in particular that said, man, when Lamar Jackson hurdled that guy in Syracuse in like week 5, he said, I sent my vote in right then and there. And I this is an extreme example because Louisville went on to lose like 3 of their last 4 games, and they had Lamar had one of the worst endings to a year for a Heisman, and so he was kind of awarded the Heisman half of a season. And don't get me wrong, Lamar Jackson was phenomenal. He was great, but I'm just saying that when we don't take into account the whole of the season and the entire body of work, and we're just. I think it hurts the integrity of the voting process. But
and that would be true if our evidence was from Deloitte's list of when stuff came in, not like we heard from a dude on Twitter 7 years ago that he was being a dumbass.
Yeah, I think Mark said the best. I think Mark said the best. They have guidelines, and they should narrow it down. What they should be doing is having them each individually, right? Give them a deadline, and give them a window, like in the normal world. You can't turn it in before this date, and you can't, and then so give them like a 2 or 3 day window, and then that's it. What are they doing over there in the Heisman Trust, making it so ambiguous for these people?
And I don't know that they're doing anything wrong. Is the other thing. Like again, this is like waste of content, message board nonsense. Because if it's a problem, the Heisman Trust will manage the problem.
Here's one more thing. Just add one more thing. Just want to put one more thing in here. Is there anybody in this panel that doesn't think that Caleb Williams is the Heisman Trophy winner for 2022? I'm just curious. Is there anyone here has even a question in your head that's not Caleb Williams?
Are you asking, do we think he deserves it, or do we think he'll get it?
I mean, I think it's funny to mess with you guys, but
I think he's deserving. Yeah.
Yeah, either one, either deserving or he's not going to get it. Is anyone here not like 90% sure is going to that guy?
I think he deserves it. I think that there's a possibility that Stetson Bennett might pull this one out. I wouldn't agree with it. I don't think he deserves it. But I think the fact that he's the quarterback on a 13-0 number 1 team, I think is going to sway a few people.
I don't think the statistics
Stetson Bennett. I mean, there's a little chatter about him.
Yeah, there is some groundswell.
20 touchdowns. That's it.
You just had to watch. You just had to watch Friday's game because all year long USC has had. See, the reason why that us on the USC show thought that they're going to lose 4 games this year is because we knew how thin they were all the way across the board. We knew that our offensive line was really talented, but really thin. But we didn't know this guy Caleb Williams was a freaking magician. And when we were shuffling guys in and out, we were missing a couple of linemen. We didn't realize that this guy's going to break tackles like Superman, roll out to his right, throw the ball 40 yards downfield to bail us out all year long. To me, that's the biggest thing is why he's such an amazing player, because he makes throws that very few, if any, college kids this year could do. And quite frankly, that many pro quarterbacks can't make. I mean, literally cannot do what he does. So, and there'd be a really good argument that he could probably go first, number 1 in the NFL draft pick this year if he was eligible. So
how is that? Because I heard on Mark's show earlier this year that the guy from Kentucky was going to win the Heisman and be the first-round draft pick.
No. That was from a guest on the Mark show. That was from a certain guest.
That was probably Jareel saying that.
Oh, he's throwing shade at Jareel already.
So USC wasn't the only one.
Hey, Jareel, we love you.
We love you, Jareel.
USC wasn't the only one to have trouble. TCU also had trouble. Got to keep it rolling. TCU also had trouble, so they fell to Kansas State, right? And a lot of people were talking about the final play of the game for TCU, where there was some debate on where the quarterback sneak was or kicking a field goal. What did we think of that decision to not do that?
I liked it.
Wait, are you talking about
like
the ball was I think the ball was across the plane. Just personally, I'm not.
I think so too.
It looked kind of like it.
I don't think the angle was enough of a skew for a foot off the ground for a couple feet off the ground to adjust it that much. I mean, you're talking about maybe a 10-degree difference from being straight over top. I think it was pretty in.
I'm surprised they didn't do a QB sneak because you've looked at how other teams have implemented that this year, and it's like for a lot of teams pretty automatic. So to do that same type of thing twice and get stuffed was kind of like.
And I don't know how you don't put the ball in your best player's hands in that situation. I mean, he's carried you this entire game, just making unbelievable play after unbelievable play, and hindsight is 20/20. They probably thought they had the look that they wanted, and it just did. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. That's football. But I don't know. I just feel like you give the ball to Duggan and hope for the best. But
he was literally willing them back from the deficit that they were in. He was doing like we were talking about what Caleb does earlier. Like he did propel that team to come almost all the back from this deficit, and then that decision to take it out of his hands.
He looked gassed, guys, and then also he was tired.
Yeah.
Last thing you want to do is your quarterback with tired legs trying to drive to the goal line, because that's probably not going to end well. I mean, you're right. The guy, you go with the goal right there, right, or whatever the phrase is. He got them to that doorstep. Maybe he should have got a shot. But then again, that's a tough call for the coach because it would have been second guessed. Can you imagine if he didn't get in? Why'd they give it to him? He was lost. He should have been on oxygen. He's gonna get it from both directions no matter what he does. It was a great game. They came short. But here's a great news: TCU, it didn't change anything unless you really are really excited to have that Big 12 banner. Just be happy that it didn't even touch your seating. You got
real lucky on that.
I will say, I do think TCU,
or maybe they didn't, Tony. Just I want to throw this out there as a Michigan fan. Maybe they didn't, Tony.
Yeah, well, and listen, I think TCU really, you could tell TCU wanted to lose that game. I mean, Max Duggan was in tears in his post-game press conference.
Well, and think about that.
You could tell how much that meant. So, I mean, it didn't hurt their seeding, and obviously they're still going to the college football playoff. They have everything to play for, but it's still, when you don't have that conference banner, it matters, and I think it matters to those players.
TCU had been screwed 2 other times by the committee, by the BC. It's good for TCU to finally get they deserve to finally get a chance, and it's a good look for the Big 12 because Texas and Oklahoma has carried that league for so long. It's nice to see another team come up, and because we all knew yesterday, even before they announced, even if TCU would have got blown out yesterday, if their name was Texas or Oklahoma, it wouldn't have mattered because you knew they were in anyway. And with TCU, they had to play close because there's a chance they might not have got in. And it's nice that TCU was able to finally get the recognition they deserve because all year, all of us said, TCU's not that good. They're going to lose next week. And then they won. And then the next week, they're going to lose. And they won. And they just kept winning.
Guys, what's with the Big 12 having back-to-back amazing championship games? Like that Oklahoma State Baylor game was also awesome, and this game was awesome too. I love seeing Pac-12. I love seeing conference championship games that are competitive, unlike the Big Ten. I mean, I'm not trying to trash the Big Ten, but they're just not competitive games the past 2 years. Well, really, the past. Yeah, I mean, I really wish you guys would drop divisions, but yeah, I know. I just really
that'd be nice.
Championship.
I don't know if we need the sacrificial lamb from Big Ten West every year to have this championship.
Shout out to my boy Zach, the Purdue fan in the chat. I saw him in there earlier. I love you, buddy.
And congrats off to Orlando.
I like watching field goals. Well, was it 5 field goals by the Purdue kicker? That was fantastic.
Yeah, quality.
That was their big
teams.
That was their big thing. They couldn't get the touchdowns. They got in the red zone. They moved the ball a lot of Michigan. I think John would agree and everyone, but they just couldn't do anything inside the 25-yard line.
They were doing. Listen, Aiden got a ton of yards. I think he got almost 400 yards or something like that. He got a lot of yards. But the problem was the red zone. The red zone defense for us really kept them. If you looked at what Will Johnson was doing, he got 2 interceptions in the ball game alone. It really was a red zone. We just denied them getting any further.
Well, I mean, somewhat the red zone. I mean, that quarterback, Aiden was throwing out of his mind. And from what I didn't watch a lot of Purdue, but from what the announcer is saying, he was having the game of his life. And he looked like a Heisman quarterback in that game. And I will say too, the one thing though that I was confident about Michigan winning that game in the half is he was throwing up a lot of stuff that was contested. He was throwing in tight windows, but I knew it just wasn't going to continue to be that tight. I knew we were going to. I told my wife before we were watching the game with my wife. I told her before, I was like, we're going to get 2 or 3 interceptions this game because they're just not going to be able to keep doing that.
Well, Jeff Brom is kind of a riverboat gambler guy. He does all these gadget plays, and Aiden O'Connell is a guy. He, like I say, he kind of reminds me of Brett Favre. He'll put the ball in jeopardy, but I mean, high risk, high reward. But Brom does it all the time. In fact, that's the reason why they kept it close. Because they had a fake punt and that fake flea flicker. I mean, they were doing all these things that kind of kept the Michigan defense off guard. I mean, they put up a good fight.
Absolutely.
Well, here's a perfect question for you Big Ten guys, because we were talking about, hey, is it a good offense, or is it a bad offense and a good defense? Now, if I'm listening correctly and watching my Big Ten football, Jeff Brom is considered one of the better offensive minds in the Big Ten, would you say?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm there watching this game, just being some Pac-12 hunk. who's soon to be in the Big Ten, and now that
You're breaking up, Rick.
Okay, I thought it was just me. I was like, oh no.
I was gonna say no one's ever gonna call Rick a big a Pac-12 punk. He's
and I think.
Well, hold on, Rick. You got that. You're gonna give it a second because I think your internet went out.
For the Big Ten now, USC.
Oh boy.
But
Rick, you're in the Matrix.
Anybody read lips?
Yeah. So real quick, while we solve some technical difficulties, let me just mention a couple of things. Please like the video if you can. That would be great. It really helps the channel. Portal. Subscribe. Yep, Rick's in the portal. That's really and by the way, kudos to Sad Saban, who's been making me laugh all day.
Yeah, Sad Saban, you've been funny today.
That was a nice little troll job. I really enjoyed it. Also, if you would like to be on the so somebody said, hey, why are there there's a lot of Michigan fans on the panel? Well, first of all, yeah, go blue. But second of all, if you want to be on the panel, you can join the Patreon. And when we do the roll call, so like every single Sunday when we do the roll call, and you can say you're in, you can come into the link, and we have up to 10 people that can be on here. So just join the Patreon, only $5, and you could be part of that. And also, if you want one of your comments to be seen up here, send us a super chat. Like Joey just sent us a super sticker of, I believe, a poop emoji. Thanks for that.
It was for Pitt.
Let's keep it go. Absolutely. So let's keep it going, and we'll definitely we'll honor all the super chats that come up. Just wanted to say all that, but back to Michigan because we love talking about that.
Yeah, we do.
So I think that we did what we needed to do. It was another example of tight first half because Purdue's giving us. Just like every team, they gave us a really good punch the first half. They gave us their best game, as Ohio State did, as Penn State did, but then in the second half, the talent took over. So that may not happen down the line. So we can't always fall back on the talent differential to get every single win. So I'm hoping that Matt Weiss has some things in the lab cooked up for TCU and potentially Georgia/Ohio State.
Well, what you said, makes me really appreciate Ben Herbert, our strength and conditioning coach, is because he's the reason why we're winning all these second halves in dominant fashion the way we are. Because eventually, they just kind of tucker out and we just kind of impose our will on them. That's the reason why you have all these teams. I think before Purdue, 6 of the last 7 games we played over the season, the opponent either scored 3 or 0 points in the second half. And this includes Ohio State and their vaunted offense. Mm-hmm. So quick shout out to Ben Herbert helping us out.
Yeah, that's great. I got to ask you guys, you Michigan fans, or anybody on the panel that watched the game, or even in the chat, I would love to see what people's opinion on this. What about the MVP of that game? Who do you think it was? Do you agree with the choice of it being Donovan Edwards, which I think is a perfectly good choice? I think it's, good, but I just wonder if anybody had a difference in who they would have chosen for the MVP.
Will Johnson.
I kind of thought that myself. Will Johnson was playing great.
Is there a way to give it to the entire O-line? I'm dead serious. Has that ever happened before? Because I think the O-line deserves so much credit. Extremely well coached, extremely disciplined, and they just create the smallest of holes so that Donovan Edwards or whoever can run through the A gap or whatever the situation is to get 60 yards, right? But that O-line has been holding up all season, and it's a testament to the coaching. So that would be my vote, is the entire O-line.
Or just Olu, maybe.
Or Olu himself. Yeah, absolutely.
Starts there.
So someone else took care of business, and that was Georgia, who solidly defeated, and I'm seeing Will's face already lighting up, solidly defeated LSU the Fighting Brian Kellys. Anything that we didn't expect, because that seemed exactly what I expected. I thought LSU would like that. Their offense does have a dynamic quarterback that can move with his legs and things like that, but I expected Georgia to take care of business. Were there any surprises?
Did you expect LSU to pass for 5? Do you expect Jaden Daniels to pass for 500 yards?
Daniels didn't, though. Daniels went out the first half. The backup threw for 300 in the second half.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Garrett
Can we get a close-up?
I really didn't expect the backup to do that. Right.
Can we get a close-up on Will's smile when we're talking about this game?
That's called Schadenfreude.
My favorite part of the game was Brian Polian, the only guy that wanted to come with Kelly. I mean, I'm sure Kelly didn't want Jeff Quinn and Del Alexander to come over with them, and they blocked the kick, and it got taken back to the house. A big special teams gap. The one guy that came with Kelly screwed him over. I love to see it, and I also loved how they went for 2 as well to get to 50. I loved to rub it in. I loved how they rubbed it in on BK at the end.
Now, Will, I thought you enjoyed that every time something bad happened for LSU, they showed Brian Kelly on the screen. I thought that was your happiest moment.
That's always great, too.
They did it just for Will. I feel 99% sure it was.
Yeah, we'll spend an extra $9.99 on the game so that way he can get his own private cam in there. And
oh man, I wish that was a real thing.
Well, if I'm a Georgia fan,
yeah, Jordan, get with Will after this and find out how you do it. And
yeah, Nussmeier, who those of you may know, his dad, Nussmeier, who is part of many different colleges and failed
Michigan,
out of
Alabama,
failed upwards multiple times. But his son actually did great things with offense. 294 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is the backup.
Yeah, did I see it correctly? At one point, they said that Georgia gave up over 500 yards of offense.
Just in the air.
Yeah.
They actually
run the ball.
It's rare.
They actually got more yards than Georgia.
I had to do a double take. I heard that, and then they threw up the stat. They eclipsed 500. It was 503.
That's a typo. That only happens in the Pac-12. That would never happen in the SEC. That's a typo. Someone miscalculated.
Oh my God, this is
somebody miscalculated.
USC going to roll 503 yards in the air. Oh, what kind of conference is that?
Side guy, weren't you making the point though that
on a national stage?
With a backup quarterback, Rick?
Backup quarterback and a Pac-12 quarterback.
Tide guy, you were making the point. I think it was on Will's show, maybe. About the SEC defenses. I think that was you. You were talking about how 3-4 years ago SEC defenses, like Saban had it rolling and everybody had it rolling, and now it's it has become a more high octane game.
Just go back and look at the numbers. I mean, SEC had defense from about 2008 to about 2013, 2014, and then we started getting higher power offenses. We brought in, Alabama alone, we brought in Lane Kiffin to revamp our offense. We used to run the ball, and only throw it when we had to.
Yep.
And we brought Kiffin in to teach us, because the hurry up was the big thing. So we brought him in. And then he moved on, and we brought another USC coach, Sark.
Yep.
And, in 2 years, when Riley gets fired at USC, he's coming to Alabama to help our offense at that time. USC is just a breeding ground for Alabama's offensive coordinators to come to.
Hey, Jeff, it's like the AAA club for Alabama offensive coordinators.
Yeah,
You know what actually surprised me in the LSU game?
What's
the
that?
LSU Georgia game, what actually shocked me is that blocked field goal and how nobody on LSU's team. I mean, what is going on? Did these guys play football before? Because, I mean, at least half the team of Georgia was like setting up. They're like, these guys don't realize this ball's still alive. I mean, I didn't hear I thought maybe I was wondering if there was a whistle or something that they thought it was dead, because I didn't hear a whistle. And those guys and the Georgia guys are just lining up to run this back, and LSU seemed just oblivious.
Well, I think that was the problem then. Georgia just stood there, and yeah, they were lining up, but they were, they didn't go for the ball right away. They just kind of, stood there around, and LSU just kind of went off the side of the field, and then all of a sudden pick up the ball and run, and that's bad coaching. Will was happy to see that because that shows, bad coaching on Kelly's part.
Okay, there's something I got to say to show some SEC bias. There's Colby in the room there saying that, if you want to beat Georgia, throw it to Ringo. And I've seen a lot of Georgia fans say that. Do you know that Ringo was projected by Todd Boucher to be the 9th overall pick?
He's talented.
That kind of tells you what kind of SEC bias.
Mike, do people really still listen to Todd Boucher though? Really?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of GMs.
I'm kidding, Mike. Your point well taken.
But I mean, that kind of tells you how
he can still be talented. I mean, the NFL doesn't necessarily draft on, all the time as we've seen in recent years. But hey, I'll go to back for Keely Ringo because I think he actually has a lot of talent. He's played well in spots. He played really well for Georgia last year as a true freshman. So I don't know. I think he's good. He's just, when you're playing corner, it's one of the hardest positions in football. And when you get burned, everyone sees it. You lose a rep, it's put, it's just plastered on film, and it's all anybody about. So you got to have a short memory and keep going. But hey,
is he a top 10 projected pick simply because he's fast as lightning? Is that it?
Possibly. I mean, he's really athletic. So and he was really highly rated coming out of high school. It's not like he was an unknown commodity. But yeah, he's definitely struggled the past couple of games.
And Jordan, like you said, you could be the best cornerback in the world, but you make 2 bad plays and they score a touchdown and you're a bum. you know, and they don't remember the 20 other plays that you broke up. They remember the 2 you got beat on. And that's like you said, as a cornerback, you got to have a short memory because, if you slip, if you miss one thing, everybody's calling you a bum.
Yeah, case in point is the game versus Michigan versus the Ohio State last week when the corners are out of position, right, and then allowed Donovan Edwards to run for like 100,000 yards. Literally, you're out of position. You're like that one time, you could be getting hell rained on you. So I wanted to talk about some other of the conference games that happened, including Clemson. Jordan, your Clemson Tigers. Dabo finally made that quarterback switch, and Cade Klubnik had himself a game. 279 yards, a touchdown, 20 for 24. How do you think that went?
Yeah, it was a really interesting game to watch just in real time. Just a lot of stuff happened in that game that Clemson just hadn't really shown, a lot of the year. Obviously, they started out. DJ started the game. He got the first 2 drives. Just it wasn't great. 2 3-and-outs, and in between those 3-and-outs, North Carolina scored on their first possession. And I was sitting there thinking, oh Lord, it's about to be a blowout. But they game planned. Clemson game planned to in case that DJ didn't have a good start, and Dabo said they planned to play him on the 3rd series regardless. I don't know if that's true or not, but he got in there and immediately leads a touchdown drive, and it was just from the moment Cade Klubnik came into the game, and anybody that saw it and could tell on the screen, just the vibe and the atmosphere of the game kind of shifted. Like it seemed like Clemson in all aspects of the game, from special teams to defense, it seemed like they were just a lot more energized. And from there, they outscored North Carolina 39-3 the rest of the way. It was a really great performance all around. Probably Clemson's best performance of the year. They finally had a 100-yard receiving game. They hadn't had one since last year. It was Cole Turner of all people. He's only had 1 catch on the year.
101 yards, dang.
Yep, 3 catches, 101 yards. It was the Clemson that reminded me of a game from anywhere from 2015 to 2020. And it was phenomenal. And I thought the defense played great. They gave up a lot of yards, but their red zone defense was phenomenal. Nate Wiggins on defense was shut down. He went from getting absolutely destroyed in the Wake Forest game, and he's kind of just been locked down ever since that game, and he's really grown up this year. So that was phenomenal. He had the pick six. He blocked a kick. Had a really huge pass breakups in the end zone. It was just a really great all around performance, and just a lot of guys in key moments. I thought the receivers had their best game of the year. And Clemson didn't even really have to run the ball. They didn't have to lean on Will Shipley or Phil Moffitt, the running backs. It just kind of makes you wonder. It's like, well, why did it take this long? And when you're out of college football playoff contender, you had to take a brutal loss to your in-state rival, one that was very, very avoidable before you make the switch. But I do
understand that from a recruiting perspective, when you're recruiting quarterbacks, you don't want them to think you're a quarterback flipper necessarily, and you're going back and forth. Like some coaches, they and all that. So I understand sticking with your guy, but maybe a game or two earlier when the writing was kind of on the wall, and because he's shown in the past, Dabo has shown that he's willing to make a change if absolutely necessary to make sure you get to the playoffs. So that was the part that I was a little surprised about, that maybe 1 game, 2 games sooner you might be in with us in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And I thought that Dabo probably should have made the move after Notre Dame at the latest. Because DJ had played really well up until the Syracuse game. That was when the cracks really started to show. And then Notre Dame was just that was just a whole system failure in all of the game. But the team needed a change at that point, and they decided to stick with him. And it went well against Louisville, but get to the South Carolina game, the 8 for 29 game. That I was like, that didn't have to happen. That was an avoidable loss, but it's no use dwelling on it. I'm really excited about the future. DJ, obviously, he entered the transfer portal today, and I just want to say that DJ Uiagalelei he's been just a model representative of Clemson University. He's just been a phenomenal teammate. Phenomenal worker. He's really just a great kid. I wish no ill will. I wish the best for him wherever he goes, and I'll always appreciate his time as a Tiger, because I think he showed a lot of strength and resiliency throughout this. This whole team these past couple of years, they've been through a lot between injuries and illnesses and even death in the family. And so it was really nice to see this team, at least, hoist the ACC trophy again, after not being in him a year ago and all the struggles that they went through last year. I thought it was a nice way to, capitulate the regular season. So I feel really good about where this team is at. I was definitely, I feel a lot better than I did, like 48 hours ago. So
I was just gonna say that you look a little bit of an orange glow coming up.
There is hope.
Did you have
orange and purple glow?
Anybody happen to catch Mac Brown's post-game speech about how he pretty much ignored Cade?
Yeah, that was strange. That was strange.
But they didn't plan for that. This guy's won a national title, and he's saying he didn't plan for the backup quarterback who has demonstrated in the past that he's got some skills and might actually come into the game.
It's time to retire, Mac.
Yeah,
he said that at halftime. When they came out at halftime, he said, "We weren't prepared for that," and I was like,
"That's what."
How did you not prepare?
That's what Scott Frost said.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, Scott Frost was like, we didn't prepare for this so like half of our game plan went out the window. Like that, and it was at that level of incompetent.
And it's really strange too, because North Carolina the past 2 weeks has lost to fourth string quarterbacks between Georgia Tech's and NC State's. So you would think, when you're going into a game where there's a decent possibility you might see the backup quarterback. I mean, it's been a national storyline all week. He's like, is DJ going to be able to play the whole game, or is he going to have to come in, and you don't prepare for him at all?
Jordan,
it's not like Klubnik was an unknown commodity. This kid was the number 1 quarterback in his class.
Jordan, have you been paying attention to this stout Chiswick defense all year? They don't need to prepare for anyone. You know why? Because they don't prepare for anyone, apparently.
That's a good point.
It looks like they're just rolling guys out there and hoping for the best.
They did really good against DJ.
Well, yeah, that's what he said. He said, "Well, we expected him to play bad. That's what we hoped. We hoped he would play bad, and which is so strange, because it's like, well, if you expected DJ to play bad, then you would also, expect a change of some sort to happen, right?"
Well, Dabo's kind of resisted changing because, I mean, from what I understand, your fan base has been calling for Cade to come in for a good month.
That's nothing new.
The favorite since the Notre Dame game, especially it was pretty much over at that point. I mean, because DJ, he had won a lot of, especially he had a phenomenal game against Wake Forest. That double overtime classic. He played out of his mind. And then he led them to wins over NC State, Boston College, Florida State, and the offense was really seeming to click. But after Syracuse, it was like just all of that goodwill and all of the confidence he had built up was just gone. And at the end of the day, I don't think this offense was ever really a fit for DJ. And you can just kind of tell. You could tell when it seemed like there was just more cohesiveness. The offense, everybody was in sync. The timing was better. He didn't even make special throws. He just made the layups that DJ hadn't been making all year. I mean, Cade had he had some really nice deep throws, but it wasn't like he was just fitting everything into tight windows. He was just taking the easy plays and making them. His mobility was a huge factor.
Have you found, Jordan? Different. Have you found that when the quarterback that the locker room kind of wants, the O-line tends to block better. The run game seems to be rolling more, and everything just seems to be gelling more. Because that happened when JJ came in.
Yep.
And they started putting JJ in the first couple of games. Everything was just working better. Not just the quarterback, but the entire offense. Have you noticed some
absolutely.
Of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And guys that Clemson fans have been frustrated with this season, the wide receivers, especially, so a couple of guys that had, been really inconsistent all year, all of a sudden look different. Like Joseph Ngata showed more burst and got more separation than I've seen him get all year. Brandon Spector, he's number 13 wearing the Hunter Renfrow jersey. Hasn't really been living up to it. But he had a really nice catch and run for 40 yards. It seemed like a lot more, were just involved. I thought, Cade did a good job of getting the tight ends involved. The offensive line gave him time. And it just translated to the rest of the team. And that was the biggest thing to me. The defense was fired up. The special teams was blocking kicks. BT Potter made a 54-yarder at the end of the half. That was the most complete performance I've seen from Clemson this year. And yes, I will acknowledge the caveat. This was against UNC's defense, Gene Chiswick defense. I don't expect Cade Klubnik, especially in the. I know he's going up against Tennessee, which isn't a much better defense, but I'm not going to go in expecting him to put on an nearly flawless performance that he did against North Carolina. You can just tell with your eyes, just anybody. You could show that film to somebody that's never watched football a day in their life, and they could tell the difference.
Absolutely.
It was just night and day.
Absolutely.
Now, here's a question.
Yeah.
Gene Chiswick, where did he coach at?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, we're getting into Auburn love here.
Yeah, I wasn't going into that one. I was going to let you guys go into the Michigan people really quickly. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Brian says Michigan, greatest 2-year turnaround of all time. I would say it's up there. I mean, look at what USC's doing right now. Look at what TCU's doing. There's a couple of turnarounds.
And I would hold off all judgment until we see what happens in the next, 200 days in Boulder.
I would go Central Florida because you got to remember when Scott Frost was down there, Central Florida went from 0-12 to 12-0. I think that seems to be in 2 years. That seems to be the best 2-year turnaround in my opinion.
Yeah, UCF. Yeah.
And they were winless to undefeated.
Well, it's a bigger stage.
And they split a national championship with Alabama.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would actually also say is that in general.
Tony froze.
Tony froze.
I like leaving it like that.
I mean, I know I froze. I would say in general, Michigan was never bad. Like
did you see
they were bad by what Michigan thinks is bad, but they were never bad.
But COVID's kind of a throwaway year.
Yeah, I think we all could agree COVID was,
hold on. We have the 2020 national champion in the panel.
2 years ago, Michigan was not 4-8.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with COVID. If you belong to a conference that didn't have leaders that knew what to do and you guys decided to cancel football, that's not everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was gonna throw that jab in there, and then I thought I was gonna throw that jab in there, and we're gonna move on.
You're really gonna go there. You're really gonna go there.
So here's where we could go. The final rankings were decided for the college football playoff. Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State. So the lines on these games is very interesting. So Georgia is favored by, I believe it's 7 against Ohio State, whereas Michigan is favored by 9 with TCU. So Georgia's actually less of a kind of a favorite. And I thought that was interesting. What do we think about these matchups? Georgia-Ohio State only happened one time with Kirk Herbstreit in the 90s, and Michigan-TCU has never happened. How about it?
I think both Georgia and Michigan cover, and not without too much difficulty. I'm like you. I saw the Georgia-Ohio State line. I'm going, really? Because I expected to be probably in the low double digits. So when I first saw it, I think it was at 6.5, and I'm going, you've got it.
I wouldn't expect it to be.
But you guys have to remember that when they put out a line, that isn't Vegas saying that Georgia's going to win by 6.5. They're saying that at 6.5, the money is going to be evenly split between Ohio State and Georgia. The line does not mean that that's who's favored by more. So just because one school is favored by more than the other, Vegas don't care. Vegas wants the money. So they want it to be split down the middle so they can collect the big.
Well, Ty guy, can you just say that once more for the people in the back?
For the slow people who don't understand that.
Well, but the thing is there's enough crazy, and we know crazy Buckeye fans that think that they could that 7 points is something that they're gonna be able to cover. So
yeah,
that's what that line set at, because I think that line's gonna creep up because the rest of the world's gonna say, okay, thank you, 7 points, let's go.
Well, and think about this, Tim. How many lines on Monday, or this is Sunday? It's at 6.5. So now tomorrow the money's moved a little, so the lines change every day going up, and it wouldn't change if they really thought this was the line. It's only being changed because of the money.
I'm willing to bet by the end of next week it's going to be around 9.5, 10.
I would agree. I think it's, or at least go.
I don't think it's going to creep up that high. I really don't.
8.5.
No,
I really don't think it gets more than a touchdown. Just understand. I mean, if you know how Vegas power rates these games, I don't think it's ever. I don't think you can favor Georgia by more than a touchdown.
Well, Jordan, like when I first saw this game, this might be a bad take on my part, but I was thinking 2016 Clemson Ohio State type game. You don't think that?
I mean, it could be that way. I think Ohio State was favored in that 2016 game, which is interesting given how that game played out. But it does kind of give. I don't know if it gives that vibe, because I feel like this Ohio State team is a lot. I think it's a lot better than that 2016 team. I think that 2016 team got by on a lot. They definitely, JT Barrett is nowhere near the quarterback that CJ Stroud is, and I don't think they were, outside of Curtis Samuel. I don't think that offense was particularly talented.
My headphones went out. Did you say Ohio State got by on paying off refs?
Oh, well, that's a whole different conversation. I won't. Yeah, but
the way we watched Georgia's secondary
definitely was sketchy how they got to that game.
The way we watched Georgia's secondary the other night against CJ Stroud and the receivers, they might put up 600 points passing. If LSU could do it, then you know that Ohio State's going to put up some yards through the air. But I don't see this game being that close.
Well, I'll tell you what though, Tim, if one of them 25 the over under, it's going to have more than 61 points scored in this game.
I can see that, especially if Jackson Smith and Jigba comes back, and I've heard mixed on that. Nobody official has really come out and said anything other than we'll see. Ryan Day said basically everyone should be back, but he's kind of we'll see is what I've been hearing from Ryan Day's conferences. So, but if he comes back, then I do think they have that prolific offense where like you're not going to be able to just double Marvin Harrison Jr. call it a day. Right now, you've got another first-round draft pick on the other side of the field.
Right, and just like you were saying just a minute ago, John, Michigan destroyed Ohio State, and LSU just destroyed Georgia's defense. So if those defenses show up, each team 30 points.
Well, I don't know. I also noticed that there was a little bit of a drop-off in the wide receivers when they played against us. Marvin Harrison dropped a couple passes. Ibukwe dropped a couple passes. Stroud played a great game, but his receivers let him down. So it seems like they really need Jackson Smith and Jigba to really ball out. And I'm not sure. I think he's pulling a Bosa. I don't think he's coming back. Personal opinion.
We do have a super chat. So Brian Lagarde, thank you for your $5 super chat. UCF didn't have to play OSU every year. Coming off 2020, they have been 25-2, beating natty favorite OSU twice. It didn't have to.
What? So those are Michigan stats right there, 25-2.
Yeah,
playing
that's
OSU twice. So I assume has some kind of reference to us.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I'm confused.
Yeah, he's referring back to when we were talking about Michigan.
Ohio State, where Michigan had to play Ohio State, so it was harder for Michigan because they went 25-2.
Okay, yeah, okay. The UCF thing was throwing me off. I was
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I only mentioned UCF as kind of a dig on Alabama because they had to split a national championship with them.
That ties. Okay, so he's basically responding to you saying that. Okay, got it. Well, thank you for your $5. Keep sending those super chats. We appreciate you. All right. So we talked about those two games, and I do agree with you. I think the Georgia one, we'll see. I think that matchup will be pretty interesting. Michigan should cover with TCU. I agree. We also have a bunch of other New Year's Six bowls happening, right? So I'm not going to go over every single one because there's like a bazillion of them. But I'm looking at the Rose Bowl, Utah versus Penn State as an interesting one. Like, how do you think that matchup might shake out?
That one's going to be good.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. That'll probably end up being like Utah and Ohio State last year. I mean, it's probably going to be, a back and forth kind of game.
I think Penn State might have a little bit something to prove because they dropped from 8 to 11 in this last poll, and I'm sure they're probably going, what in the world is this about? Because you had teams above them that lost. USC dropped below them.
Mike, respectfully, how many quality wins does Penn State have?
I would say their best wins are.
I mean, when I say quality, top 25 wins. There's your answer.
None. But
their best win would have been Purdue.
Their resume is losing to Ohio State,
Maryland.
Michigan.
They shut out Maryland 30-0.
Maryland doesn't count.
Well, with all due respect, I mean, how many teams do we have in the Big Ten? How many teams do we have in the Big Ten that have the same record as North Carolina State, Mississippi, Notre Dame, Texas, South Carolina? I mean, Notre Dame's 8-4.
Well, here, Ben, this is something you might not be aware of, but you get 3 out-of-conference games that you could schedule somebody. I mean, I understand that Hawaii is available over UCLA.
And I thought that you would kind of give them respect because they also went down and whooped the hell out of Auburn in their own backyard.
That's true.
Well, part of the reason why Penn State dropped is because the teams that won their conference championships moved up, i.e. Utah.
Right.
So,
but USC went below them, though.
Excuse me?
USC went below them, so that's one spot they should have gained. And I know 2 of them should have passed. So there should have been 2 that went up, 1 went down.
But USC had 3 top 25 wins. Again, Penn State had 0. USC beat Notre Dame, Oregon State, and UCLA.
Well, Penn State is a team that basically just held serve. They lost the 2 games they were supposed to lose and won the 10 games they were supposed to win.
And beat nobody in the top 25 is what Rick keeps saying.
Yes, but this is the thing. My point is, what holds
this game is it's easy to say. Kyle Whittingham or James Franklin. Who do you got your money on? And Stormy.
Yeah.
James Franklin, last time he was in the Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl, lost to Clay Helton, for God's sake.
Yeah. I think Utah might be able to take it.
I think it'll be a good game.
It'll be a good game, for sure.
Utah wins by 10.
Utah by 10. All right, you heard it here first, folks. Citrus Bowl, Purdue versus LSU, also the 2nd of Jan.
Boiler up!
This is a boiler up, absolutely. I mean, listen, Purdue has played tough football, good offensive football, especially in the passing game. You've got an LSU team, obviously, just had a rough game against Georgia, but they still have. Obviously, I think they're in with their situation. If their quarterback is healthy, then I think they'd be formidable against Purdue. Who do we have in this one?
I have LSU.
I have Purdue.
But I want to know who the over and under is because I'm guaranteed. I think free money on the over.
It's not a big bowl, so I don't know. Will let's converse on this. It's not really a big like New York 6 bowl, so Brian Kelly might be able to win it. Yeah, if it was an NY6 bowl, we would know. If it was an NY6, we would know Brian Kelly.
Then I'll pick money line on whoever the other team is immediately.
Yeah.
The Tigers. So the LSU is 5.5-point favorites.
I would go 38-27 LSU.
Yeah. I could very well see Purdue winning this game. If they play anything like they played against Michigan, I think they're gonna have. I mean, if that offense goes like that, I think they'll have a good chance.
Yeah. Purdue will get their pound of flesh.
I could very well see this game getting so boring I accidentally switch over to QVC and watch talking with David.
I can't believe you'd say this game's boring. This game's going to have a lot of points.
There might be like a new tool for corn.
I could see a lot of points. Yeah.
I figure because there's so many bowl games, we might just hit the ones that y'all's teams are on. So Tulane versus USC is on the Cotton Bowl. So are you up for the challenge?
Give me Willie Fritz. Give me Willie Fritz. Let's go.
This is a no-win bowl because they're putting USC in a no-win position, and here's why. Tulane is a great team. Willie Fritz, you said it, Jordan, and I got to credit our other co-host on the Pac-12 live show, Chris, Mr. TBM. His dad used to be a coach. Chris is a great former football player, and he's been talking to Willie Fritz since the first week of the season. Congratulations to Tulane. They've had an outstanding season. I think their best season since 1998, I want to say. Nobody respects the AAC champion. They went into KSU and beat the Cats, who I think just won the Big 12, if I'm not mistaken.
So doesn't that mean we're playing the Big 12 champions in Dallas?
No, but we're playing the Tulane that everybody mocks. So it really doesn't matter. You know, they've got that logo that's been from 1932. Please update that logo.
No, I love it.
USC
for a former SEC program. How dare you?
Well, Tony, by your standard,
Tulane is very capable of beating USC. That's what I'm trying to say. They're very capable of beating USC. They're a good team. They've got a great coach. And if they beat USC, bring it on. USC is overrated. The Pac-12 sucks, yada, yada, yada. And if USC beats Tulane, meh.
Yeah. You can't compare. I don't think you can compare the motivation factors between those two teams.
Now can I make a comment to Tony? Can I make a comment to Tony? SEC. No.
Well, speaking of SEC,
hey, I'm surprised the SEC people aren't declaring it because Tulane used to be in the SEC and Tulane beat Kansas State. That the SEC is somehow the kings of Kansas. The kings.
Well, I said yesterday the SEC
they can take all the Bape clothes that the Big 12 sold. You know, and
there you
declare
go.
it the SEC.
The SEC.
Here's the problem with this game, you guys. Here's some things I'm looking at. Here's some things I'm looking at with this game. You're looking at a busted up USC team. Will Caleb play with a hamstring injury? That could be weeks to months to get back.
Is it Miller time? Is it Miller time?
It's Miller time.
We just lost Nealon, which was
Miller's pretty good, guys.
We also
I know.
We also lost Nealon, who's basically our center, and as you know, the offensive line, losing your center. This is the guy's sixth year, and he's the heart and soul. He's basically just a coach on the field. He's gone for the season.
Don't bring out the excuses.
I'm not making excuses. We're gonna win the game. I'm saying he's not gonna run away.
But come on. I'm just representing the people in the field. This is going to be the excuses. Nobody wants to hear that. Who's hurt?
We have our left guard, who's probably an All-American left guard, is probably not going to play in this game because why are you going to risk injury for Tulane? That's what he's going to say, and disrespect a really good team. So I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. And there's one more factor. Can anyone on this panel tell me the last time USC won a game in the state of Texas?
Yeah,
exactly.
Keyshawn.
I don't even remember.
Yeah,
I don't even remember.
The 1990 Cotton Bowl.
It's maybe 90s.
It's
Keyshawn 94. So
the Cotton Bowl.
The 95 Cotton Bowl 94 season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So realistically, our run, we've not played well in the state of Texas for quite some time. We've got a banged up team, and we're very thin. There's a reason why the guys on this panel said we're going to go 8-4 this year. Very talented, very thin. Those injuries have caught up. Those injuries have caught up with the Trojans. So it'll be a good game, I think.
Does he opt out? Yeah, he's very well good.
Who, Jordan?
Addison, yeah.
Yeah, he's eligible.
I don't know.
He's draft eligible.
I can't wait to talk about your team.
I will say,
Jordan.
wide receiver is not a position we're lacking for.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that one.
We should have the talent to beat Tulane,
The
even if it's
O-line-
Miller in the backups.
Yeah, the O-line and then Miller's first meaningful game, that might be the issue we might have.
Tim, are you saying that random game in Berkeley, after the coaches had all been fired and Raleigh been hired, was not meaningful?
No.
Did it not mean that much for you?
It was something, all right.
Tim, there were 10 or 12 people in the stands for that game. What are you talking about?
I'm not even sure that game happened, really. I've heard reports.
There were literally dozens of people watching it on TV, including my brother, me, and you.
So yeah, probably a close game.
We were talking about the SEC versus Kansas State, and indeed, Alabama is going to be facing Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. Tide guy, who's staying in, who's going to the draft and sitting out of the game. What do we? Because if you remember from 3 years ago, we were talking about this when Michigan played Alabama. Jerry Jeudy played, and we certainly felt the effects of that. So do you think that Saban will be able to keep some of them in the game, and how do you think that's going to shake out?
No, we've already lost, and it isn't official really until tomorrow, because only graduates can enter the travel portal until tomorrow.
Okay.
We're losing 14 people to the portal on Monday.
Oof. Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. We're cleaning house. Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean by cleaning house? You're cleaning house, you're being cleaned?
A lot of them are being cleaned. They're players that see the writing on the wall. They're not going to play. They've sat down with Saban, and Saban's talked to them. They're moving on. Now, some of them, we're losing 2 players that I'd like to have back, but most of the players, they're cleaning. And it hasn't been official yet, but it sounds like Will Anderson and Bryce Young will forego. They will not play in the bowl game.
It's nice to be a team that can say we're losing 14 players and you're being – and that's our choice.
Yeah.
Well, though, think about this. In the summer, Alabama had to get 5 – we had to kick 5 people to the portal this summer because we had 93 people – scholarships in May. So we had to get rid of 8 total, and it came down to, so yeah, we get rid of a few players. Now, I think given Saban having 4 weeks to practice, I don't think, I'm not going to say that who we lose in the portal, and even with Will out and that, if Alabama is Alabama, we win the game.
It's got to be tough if you're a player. You're a 5-star player, 4-star player. You're playing at Alabama, and you may be a starter at 130 different schools. But at Alabama, you're just not cutting it. I mean, that has to be tough for a player who's been told they're the best since sliced bread their whole life.
Well, and think of this. The one other thing that people don't talk a lot about is Alabama for years had people sitting on the bench and willing to sit for 2 or 3 years. But now with NIL money, sitting on the bench, they're not making big NIL money where they could go to USC, they can go to Michigan, Ohio State, and make the money and play.
They ain't going to make money in Michigan.
Well, I'm wondering, I mean, if you're saying cleaning house, Jeff, meaning they're being told, hey, look, we don't have a spot for you. And you said you guys did that at 8 players last year. Right. At what point does that begin to hurt your guys' ability to recruit players when you got to remember all these players have coaches that entrusted their players to go to a coach. And if they're getting cut and being told, hey, you're not cutting it, you might want to look somewhere else. At what point, and I agree with you, it's not just Alabama, but at what point does that become an issue in recruiting?
Well, the big thing is 2 of our recruits. One is Holden, who's a wide receiver. He's a 5-star. He is being let go, more or less, because of his attitude and the discipline problems. And that's where we are cutting ties with some of the people. It's not that they're not good athletes. It's they're not following Alabama's standard. They're getting in trouble. They're not showing up to practice on time. But yeah, I do agree with you.
Do you think maybe there's a culture in Alabama because it's that actually breeds that kind of behavior out of some of these kids? So we have one of your.
No,
I doubt that, Ben. That's a tight ship with Saban, I'm sure.
Yeah, our culture.
He takes no.
And we've had players. We got players this year getting on. NFL players coming back and going, "Why are you wearing a green mouthpiece? This is Alabama. We all one color. We're all, No, Alabama's had discipline problems this year and penalties and this and that. And there are some problems, but control is not one of them. Saban's not going to give us the shit.
Yeah, this is not Urban Meyer. This is not Urban Meyer, Florida, right? With AK-47s in the parking lots. I don't think that's what's going on under Saban's watch, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Tell us more about Urban Meyer's shortcomings. I could go for 4 hours on that.
I can listen to that too.
You guys just look up Urban Meyer, Florida, AK-47 if you want a good read. Just do that.
Now,
hey Jordan, you got a bowl game too. We got What do we got? Orange Bowl, Clemson versus Tennessee.
It's a very orange bowl.
Very orange.
Very orange bowl. Also the loss to Shane Beamer Bowl, so that'll be fun. My Twitter timeline is already filled with Gamecock fans making the jokes. It's a good time. But no, this is a really interesting bowl. It's also the backup quarterbacks bowl if you think about it. It's a really interesting matchup. Clemson. Clemson and Tennessee, I believe, have played 19 times. But this is only the second time they've played in the postseason. Last time they played was in the Peach Bowl in 2004, I think. So this is a really interesting matchup. Obviously backup quarterbacks. I'm really interested to see who opts out for each team. I know Dabo he emphasizes culture and guys that want to play, but Clemson had no opt-outs for the Cheez-It Bowl last year, but this year Clemson has a lot more draft-eligible guys. They're going to that defensive line, and they're going to lose Trenton Simpson as well. So I'm really interested to see who plays, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be interesting because they don't have a ton of film on Joe Milton. He's definitely not Hendon Hooker, but he's got a hell of an arm. It could be different. I know Michigan fans are very familiar with Joe Milton.
We are very familiar with almost losing the worst game since App State to Rutgers in 2020. We are very familiar with that.
Yeah, that's why I was pretty surprised that you had this so close, because I figured that the talent gap between Cade Klubnik and DJ Uyunglele is not nearly as much as the gap between Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton.
I agree, but Tennessee still has talented wide receivers. Jalen Hyatt's only a sophomore, so he's not. I don't think he's going to opt out. I'm really interested to see who plays for them. I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup because Clemson is kind of finding their stride on offense, and they seem to have their quarterback for the future, and they seem to be playing with a lot of confidence right now. But Tennessee, I don't know. I mean, the last time we saw them, they murdered Vanderbilt, but it's Vanderbilt, so you don't really know. So it's going to be interesting, and this is the first time for this Clemson, this new look Clemson staff, going through bowl prep and stuff like that. So I'm, the new coordinators, I'm really interested to see how they navigate that whole process. But I'm really excited for this game. It's anytime Clemson gets to play a big time SEC program, it's always great. So I'm excited.
Jordan,
I have a
Michigan men. I have a question.
Do you know what the jerseys are going to be like, or have any idea? Because it is.
I have
and
no
Darrell brought
idea.
this out earlier. It's Tennessee, Orange Tennessee versus Orange Clemson playing the Orange Bowl. So
I think Clemson at the very least. I think Clemson will probably at the very least wear orange pants. Other than that, I can't make any promises. But I mean, I know some people want to see an all orange bowl, but I don't know. It'd also be really funny if both teams they just subverted everybody's expectations, and Clemson wears their purple military appreciation jerseys, and then Tennessee comes out with the smoky grays.
I was going to say,
we gotta keep rolling.
None of the grays. No grays.
The whole stands are all orange. It has to be all orange. Everything.
I'm getting really old. Get off my lawn, all of you kids with your colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Can we just have uniforms again? Please.
Will, how you feeling about South Carolina?
I'm feeling like we can definitely run the ball on them. Not drag on Clemson, but similar to the way that we did against Clemson, because I just haven't been impressed with South Carolina's run defense. So I'm feeling a lot better about this one than I would if it was a team with a good run defense, because this is going to be Tyler Buckner's first game since that's the game that shall not be named.
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to see him come back, and I want him to see him kick butt. I really like the guy. I mean, I like pretty much all the Notre Dame players. They all seem like good guys in the interviews, but for TB, with everything that he's gone through, I really want him to go out there and just kick some cock.
There you go. Ben, how about your chances against the North Carolina in the Holiday Bowl?
I'm just happy it's not the Alamo Bowl for a change. That's nice. We have not done well in Texas lately, so that's a good change. And North Carolina will be interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, Gonzalez just declared for the draft, so he's not going to play, and that's our best corner by far. That's going to be a challenge because North Carolina can't throw, so I think it's going to be a lot dependent on our D-line disrupting, May. But I don't feel too bad about it. I mean, I think we have a good chance because, of course, they're traveling across the country. That's always hard for any team to do. Oregon's just traveling down the coast. But it'll be interesting to see, especially what Mac Brown has lined up for us. But the last time Mac Brown played Oregon, we put him into retirement silently.
There you go.
True.
I mean, it does happen. It happens.
Could it happen again? Could it happen again? Time?
Is it true that game is being played in the baseball stadium and not in the new football stadium?
That I don't know.
You guys know?
I would hope not.
I don't know.
The baseball stadiums are just not.
First of all, the baseball stadium has a wine bar in it, which is actually kind of awesome.
Petco Park.
Okay, it's in the baseball stadium.
Oh,
they just built a beautiful brand new football. I wondered this because they just built a beautiful brand new football stadium in San Diego, and yet they play their bowl game in a baseball stadium.
I don't like the baseball stadium look. It just kind of looks so funky.
It does. I mean, it's one of my favorite stadiums for baseball. I love it, but not for football.
Well, I will say this too. If record stands too, I believe Mac Brown is 0-3 against Oregon all time. So this might be 0-4 now. So let's hope.
And can you imagine though, if Nix is healthy, your guys against that North Carolina defense?
I know. I'm just sitting here laughing at it.
Aforementioned defense.
Hopefully, but yeah, I mean, and that's it too. We just lost one of our. He was an almost 5-star receiver. Thornton, he just transferred too. So just like Ty Guy, we have guys who can't make the roster. Other people step up and take the place, and he just couldn't find playing time. So it happens. Sucks. We don't hate to lose those people, but that's a sign also of the health of your roster when you can turn over guys like that and have other guys just take their place. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it's a baseball stadium, so you guys might actually, against that defense, you guys might score the most points in the history of any team in that stadium.
There you go. Think big.
Any sport, any team, I bet you guys score the most points. That's actually going to be kind of awesome.
Think big. So let's go to the coaching carousel, keep things rolling here. So I was just watching the Deion Sanders to Colorado videos that they post on YouTube. I recommend checking them out because it actually goes through a retrospective of like a documentary of him going in and seeing all the facilities, having the press conference, talking to the players, all of it. It's actually really cool.
Those videos are awesome. I watched them all today.
Yeah, what do we think about that fit? And he's already gotten he already got a 5-star recruit today. I know it's for 2025, but still.
There's more coming.
Yeah, there's more coming.
Well, is Travis Hunter coming with him? The number one.
Presumably.
So.
Yeah. The quote was, "I got 10 guys that are coming with me. They're dogs, and they're going to eat."
And I'm sure one of them is his kid.
Yeah.
He was his son was already introduced to the team and the press as there's your quarterback.
Yeah.
And to the press, and the quarterback's going to have to earn it.
Tony, the Pac-12, when USC and UCLA announced they were leaving the Pac-12, the Pac-12 hung their head. They were down. And bringing in Deion, you couldn't have done anything better for the Pac-12 than hiring Deion. I mean, that is huge for the Pac-12.
Well, the question is
Colorado needed to make a change. They have not been anything really in so long and done nothing.
Since 2016 was their last good year.
Like I say, they were double digits in 2016.
That was such a fluky team. That was a weird.
Nothing's been exciting. Nothing has been exciting. This is actually bringing excitement back to Colorado in some degree, whether it works out or not. At least they're trying to bring in a name that brings attention.
But Eddie, I mean, this is a guy who's done nothing but win. Yeah. Who is inspiring the heck out of people, who's like rebuilding a roster in 12 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, 2022 now. I mean, people can say what they want, but I got to give them a lot of kudos for it.
Can you imagine if Oregon had the neon Deion Ducks, if they would have hired Deion before Lanning? I mean, just a year ago.
Yeah.
That is like built-in marketing. The swag meets the swag. I mean, Oregon's always ahead of the curve. What happened there?
That might be too much swag. That might be too much.
Oh, I don't think Oregon has too much swag. They're the ones that invented the whole
Uncle Phil getting old.
And Rick,
the baton to Deion. Hand the baton to Deion.
At some point, you need some substance with the flash.
Deion Sanders could bring the Aflac duck to Oregon. So they could be a double duck.
Even better.
I'm the buyer.
Huddles could be the Aflac duck.
I'm the buyer of Oregon being the SEC school of the West if Deion was my coach and all the guys he'd be able to recruit. Now, Deion's going to be doing an unbelievable job at CU. He is going to be taking so many guys from the South. Now that the NCAA doesn't have any more teeth to its enforcement, what is the SEC going to do to prevent that? Because that's just not supposed to happen. They're not going to be able to rap on Deion. We're not going to be able to find dirt.
Rick, as long as it don't affect Alabama, I don't care.
Oh, I think he would. Could you imagine Deion's ability to recruit with all that Nike money? Oh, dear God, help you.
I'm looking forward to the Colorado versus Alabama non-con.
I think Deion's going to take some Colorado Tech billionaire money and do just fine.
Oh, yeah.
We have to throw a shout out to Sad Saban.
The Aflac Bowl, Colorado versus Alabama, the Aflac Bowl in the near future.
Shout out to Sad Saban for cracking us up all night.
Yeah, Sad Saban, I love it. You better riot tonight. You're awesome.
Anybody going to mention the Music City Bowl for DeReal?
There we go.
Who are they playing?
Music City Bowl.
Iowa.
I have a bowl.
Iowa, the very tough Iowa offense against Kentucky.
The same matchup from last year. Love it.
Yep.
I have a bowl to bring up. How can we not bring up Texas?
Sure.
The committee has their little things that they like to do. I think it's brilliant. The Alamo Bowl, they should call it the 7-win Sark Bowl. You got UW.
You got 8 wins. Hey. 8 wins, Sark.
If Texas wins, they're 8-4 right now. That would give them their 9th win with 5-7 last year. That's 14 divided by 2. There's your 7 win. 7 wins in the Alamo. Don't forget the Alamo.
LBC with the math. I like it.
Whoa.
Come on.
I love it.
That is a lot of math for right now. Well, I'll give you some math. Yeah. Jamie Chadwell is going to get paid $4 million a year to go to Liberty.
$4 million for Liberty, huh?
Wow. So how about that as that to me isn't that kind of a lateral move? What are the benefits to moving over from Coastal Carolina to Liberty?
You just said
$4 million. Money. I could give you 4 million reasons.
That's true.
Yeah,
it had to be money.
I'll tell you though, he's got such a good thing going in Coastal Carolina. I don't know why you take that job unless you just didn't get any of the others.
Well, that's it too. He probably got looked at, maybe talked to, nothing worked out. Liberty offered him money. Maybe Coastal was like, "Nah, we're going to cap you with this. We can't offer you more." And he went, "Okay, I'll take the money." I mean, that seems to be all.
I know I know he was a lead candidate for the Georgia Tech job. So I mean, at one point, and I think the boost. I don't know whether it was the athletic director that didn't want. That whole Georgia Tech coaching search was weird. So it could be possible that when he didn't get Georgia Tech, he was like, well, I still want to leave. So,
it looks like he was making $850K at Coastal. So maybe the bump up to $4 million might. I think.
Okay, okay. Let's be clear. That's not a lateral move anymore.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not even close.
Question asked and answered.
Bump.
Yeah, Liberty was not going to match it or near match that. So.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, that $4 million is more than some Power 5 coaches are getting.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is that we sort of saw the Matt Campbell lesson last year of, and actually, guys, Dion, in his video, John, you saw this. Dion talked about it. He said, "Look, you're moving up, or you're getting pushed, or you're getting fired." Yep. He's like, "So you just, when the time comes to move up, you got to move up."
Days. You either move on or move right.
Yeah. And Dion worded it 100 times better than I just did. Guys, watch Dion's video because it's great. Yeah. He's talking to the Jackson State players about that. His video of saying goodbye to the Jackson State players is phenomenal.
Yeah, he said you don't die in a place. You move on or you get fired, pretty much. And maybe that's what he felt like. Well, also, you don't want to be Matt Campbell, where you were the hottest name in the world, and now look at your season this year, and maybe you lost out on your opportunities. Take them while they're there. I mean,
Ben, I think you just nailed it. Actually, I'm putting the wrong way. Sorry, on the screen. I think you just nailed it, Ben, 100%. Because that's what happened to Matt Campbell, and now Matt Campbell's name, you don't hear Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell is being talked about for jobs that are paying $8-9 million a year now, and now nobody's talking to it.
Jamie
Chadwell may have said, "Hey, this is the time." He may have looked at his team too, his team at Coastal Carolina, and been like, "I don't have another year like this one in me."
It's very possible. Hey, Tom Herman got a job. So Tom Herman has been named the head coach of, I believe it's FAU. So he's coming back from he was an analyst for a while for the Bears, I believe, in the NFL, and now he's coming back to college as a head coach. I think it's an interesting move for FAU to do this. Obviously, they need a coach that knows what they're doing. And so I think it might be a solid opportunity for him to rebuild and start going up.
I don't know, man. FAU is notoriously cheap. Like,
when did
Florida
FAU become
State was paying Willie when that went up, they just let him go.
2 years and Kiffin got a good job, so Herman might be looking.
That's what I was thinking. The Lane Kiffin precedent.
Yeah, FAU has become a reclamation project.
Yeah. So good luck to Tom Herman, because that isn't not going to be an easy rebuild.
No, not at all.
But it's a nice place to live.
I think that's why he did it. Right. He's gonna get to live. He's gonna get to live in Florida, so that is not too shabby. So obviously we've got the transfer portal has been starting. Iowa, everybody at Iowa was very, very happy to get Cade McNamara, who was kind of the big flashy transfer portal news the other day. And Corey Bratta and I were talking about it the other day on Hawkeye with the Storm, and he was like a kid in a candy store. I mean, he was so excited.
Yeah, but here's a question, John: who is he going to throw to?
So that's what I was. That's literally my next point.
And does he get to call his own plays?
Yeah, hold on.
Also, my next point. That's part of the thing with transfer portals.
Part of it is, if you pull in a named quarterback, the receivers will come as well. So I mean, Cade McNamara is not exactly like the top of the list, but he's a known commodity. He's a known brand quarterback, right? People know his name, and so he will attract some talent and through the portal, and so hopefully that will, because we know the offense just has to be good. Do you know what I mean? You just need a decent offense at Iowa, because your defense is out.
A top 70 will do well.
Right. If you put up like 20, 25, 24 points a game, you're going to win a lot of games with that defense, right?
And the defense is going to score 6 every once in a while for you. So, I mean, you really
helps.
Well, if Cade's not the top name, I don't know who is.
You guys, I think the transfer portal starting tomorrow is going to go crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you wait until you see some names that are going to hit.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, by the way, guys, one thing about the transfer portals, remember that a lot of teams are also using the transfer portal to unload players. So there's lots of players that are being encouraged to go in the transfer portal as well.
The sad
so
part
whenever your team is, when you hear about people leaving, and people will leave, know that it's not all bad.
The sad part about this, though, Tony, is there are thousands of guys that go into the portal, and a lot of them never come out.
Yeah.
Right. So these guys that were like hot shot names, 4-star recruits, They have, they sit behind people. They go into the portal, and then they just never get picked up. And that's just
it's going to be especially true this year. It's already going to be record numbers. It's
there's already 1,000 in the portal right now, and the portal ain't even open.
Well, and doesn't
it's always been a risk.
And here's a question, and I could be wrong in this, but my impression from what people have said is that once you go in the portal, they are not obligated to continue to honor your scholarship.
Right. Correct.
Yeah, your scholarship is done at that point. Once you enter,
they can bring you back.
Well, it's not necessarily done. They can choose. They can choose not.
They are not obligated to continue. But I'll give you an example. For right now, all of those like awful players at Colorado, who are just Colorado's in such a state of struggle right now. If any one of them wants to stay and get a degree from the University of Colorado, the University of Colorado has to keep them on. They leave the team, but they have to be kept on academics or athletic scholarship with full athletic scholarship benefits of all kinds, including stipends and everything else through their graduation.
Does that go against the
transfer portal?
It goes against their count. So
no, it does not.
No,
Mike, it does not.
Nope, that's no longer against their count.
No,
is that a recent change?
Long time ago, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
It does not go against if you change coaches. If you get a new coach,
that's the caveat. You have to change coaches. You can't do it without that.
Yeah,
that's why we're talking about Colorado. Or anywhere that's had a coaching change. So the thing is those guys, like, it's a huge risk for a lot of these guys going into a transfer portal because you're risking your whole scholarship and your everything. I mean, there are guys at USC right now that are just like, hey, they were on the team and they got cut and they were like, I'm just gonna stay and get my degree and
then grad transfer. Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, live the wonderful life.
I got a question for John.
Yeah.
With regards to Cade McNamara.
Yeah.
So, kudos to Iowa for actually, taking a quarterback. Now, do they keep Brian Ferentz or do they get?
No, I hope not. I mean, I have to say I hope not, because he could stay and nobody would do anything about it, because basically Kirk Ferentz owns the University of, like, he's above the AD, it feels like.
Well, and the thing is, and it's up to the AD to fire Ferentz because of the way that rule is set up. That because Kirk Ferentz can't technically be his son's boss,
right?
And so Ferentz has to answer to the athletic director, and if the athletic director is scared of Ferentz, well, he's not. It's not gonna. Or Kirk Ferentz, then it's not gonna. He's not going to make a move. So
it would take the president of the university to step in.
The word among Iowa circles is that his dad's going to get him a job in the NFL, and that was kind of dependent on Cade taking the transfer portal over to Iowa.
Yeah, because I wouldn't think that Cade McNamara would want to go to a Brian Ferentz offense.
Because pretty much every skill position Iowa has right now, bad as they are gone. Their starting running back is in the portal. Their top two receivers are in the portal.
Yeah.
They have a lineman in the portal. I mean, it's a fire sale for the offense of Iowa.
Yeah, so then they're going to have to go in the portal and get people to replace it.
And I'll tell you what, Charlie Jones looks good.
Maybe they could just go to Home Depot and pick up some guys out of the parking lot, because it might be better.
might actually be better, unironically.
Absolutely. So if you guys have additional ones in the chat you wanted us to talk about, definitely let us know. Hit that like button, subscribe, all of that good stuff. But we do have a game next week. I know we've all talked about, oh no, it's almost over, et cetera, but there is a game, all right, in just a couple of days. The 123rd Army versus Navy game at Lincoln Financial Field in Philly. So Tide Guy, as one of our honorary members of the armed forces here, what do you think about this game, the triple option?
Honestly, and I know some people in this chat will say, well, because Bama's not in the playoffs, but I say this every year, and I said this before. The best game of the year, the biggest game of the year, is Army versus Navy. This is men and women, that go to these academies, and the people on this field could graduate next summer and go off to war. So it means a lot. And if you've never been to a game, if you've never even watched a game, you must watch this game. It's not a lot of talent. It's a lot of triple option, but it's a great game. Navy is 4-7. Army is 5-6. So, and records in this game, it's a rivalry game. So it really doesn't matter.
Throw out the record book.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like me and Rick were talking earlier today, his brother told him, we're playing for second place right now because Air Force won the Commander-in-Chief trophy. They beat both Army and Navy this year. Congratulations to all the Air Force for winning that trophy. But this is going to be a really good game.
Now, Ty guy, this is coming off a huge upset this week. I think it was on Friday. Did you hear what happened?
Yeah.
Army beat Navy in swimming.
Wow.
Yeah. How does the Navy not know how to swim?
That's shocking, actually.
Because I will tell you, it's mandatory.
All rules are off in this game.
Mandatory when you go to boot camp, you have to swim to be in the Marine Corps. And you guys are more than welcome next Saturday. I will be hosting a show. We got some Army veterans that's going to come on. I got a Marine Corps veteran coming on. And, like I said, if you've never seen a game, watch this game next week. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I will tell you one quick story.
Too.
One quick story. Where I used to live, there was a National Guard base. And one year I snuck onto the National Guard base because I had 3 friends who actually lived on the base in housing. And I snuck on with the paint sprayer and 20 gallons of blue paint. And in the snow, I wrote, "Go Navy, beat Army in their front yards."
That's
The
awesome.
commander of the base did not think that was funny at all. Because I went to my 3 friends' house and wrote, "Go Navy, beat Army in their yards."
Ben's about to kick you, Jeff.
And if you guys get a chance, turn on that game early. Like as the cadets and the midshipmen march out, the flyovers that they do of both the Army helicopters and the Navy planes, when the president lands in Marine One, and watch the whole thing. Like at halftime, they line on the 45-yard lines, and the president spends half the game with the Army students in the middle of the students, and then they walk him to the middle of the field, and there's this whole big little handoff thing, and then he spends the other half of the game with the other team. I mean, everything about this game is just incredible, arguably, except for a little bit of the talent on the field. But it's just a spectacular thing, and you can feel just watching that game. You feel the kids playing with heart.
I've got a comment on
it. People don't know this, but the Army gets 5 Navy as prisoners, and the Navy gets 5 Army as they got to change academies for this game, and they go to the academy.
It's the prisoner exchange because they're the transfer students that they do. Like it's essentially like the military version of study abroad. You go and spend a semester, I don't know if it's a year or semester, I forget which, at the other academy. Okay. And I've had a lot of friends actually that have taught at both academies, and so I've gone to games with them. And I'm telling you guys, if you ever get a chance to go to that game, it is the coolest thing ever. Although I made the mistake. I remember one year, I think it was 2008. I went to a couple of USC games when Pete Carroll had that team was like number 1 or number 2 in the country, and then I went to the Army Navy game, and I was like, oh, I miss Pete Carroll. But the game itself was amazing.
Oh, I heard there's a new tradition starting this year at the Army Navy game.
What's that?
They're going to give President Biden a football, but it's going to be the biggest ever because of high inflation.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Right.
Hey, Ben, nice prop, by the way.
I'd put on my Army greens, but I'd be the fat man, the little coat these days. And Tad guy, just hope that Army hasn't stolen Bill this year.
And Ben, you're going to be on my show next week, right? Because we're going to label it the Jarheads, because it's I'm only having Marines, no Navy guys. I don't know. It's the Jarheads against the Boy Scouts.
Jarhead
the Army is nothing more than the Boy Scouts with heavy artillery.
Your department in the Navy is the Marine.
Oh, like a true Marine.
Get over it.
Oh, like a true Marine. I love it.
Well,
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, Ty Guy, though. Records in this game don't matter at all. Yeah. One team could be amazing. The other team could be garbage, and you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it customized the uniforms to have military ties, too, which is really cool.
Oh, I'll tell you what, the helmets. You go back and look at some of the old helmets. They paint battleships. They put, Army signals on. I mean, it's awesome. It's really cool to see.
The camo unis, those are really, really cool looking. Yeah. The pageantry of this game, though, is why it's still like the game of the year. I know Michigan, Ohio State fans, but the pageantry in this is just phenomenal.
You guys brought up
my friends get on me all the time. Well, you play Auburn, and I mean, I love Bama Auburn, but being in the military, it does more the Army Navy game. I mean, it's just special.
Well, don't the Navy uniforms have like the letters that are kind of cut out, look like they're cut out of an American flag? They're all red, white, and blue and stuff.
Well, it depends. They're kind of like Oregon. We have so many different uniforms, and they make special helmets for this game. So, I mean, they're always changing.
Absolutely. Well, we did want to just say on behalf of everyone at the Voice of College Football, thank you. Anybody in the armed forces, past, present, thank you for your service. We have Michael in chat, as well as a bunch of our panel. Obviously,
Joey Foster.
Joey Foster. Obviously,
Dustin Miller. We got a few.
And, yeah, it's really awesome. I could, they didn't want me because I'm colorblind and extremely uncoordinated. But
hey, wait a minute. Like this on a Marine, Jarhead, you got to be able to do this. That's the only test that you need to be a Marine.
There you go.
Maybe John only sees two colors, maize and blue.
That's right. That is absolutely. That is.
I mean, it's close. Right. That's close enough to Navy. They'll probably take it.
Yeah, we'll take it.
We're hitting the 2-hour mark, so I think what we're going to do is wrap up with final thoughts and where can people find everybody. But thank you all for coming on here today, as always, and devoting your time, and those of you in chat who have been part of us all season. But we're gonna start with Rick at the bottom here. Final thoughts and where can people find you?
Hey, thanks for having me on tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you to everybody in the chat. You can find me on the Pac-12 show, 7:30 Pacific, on Wednesday evenings with Tony and Tim. And you can find me on the USC postgame show after the bowl game, after the upcoming Cotton Bowl game. And you can find me on Twitter at LBC Trojan. Good luck to everybody. Good luck to everybody in their bowl games, and let the Wild West begin tomorrow, and let the tampering, I guess, begin, depending on whether your coach is liked or hated or your team is liked or hated, because there is no evidence of tampering. This is free agency. It's legal. Get over yourselves, and we need some defensive players. So let it be known that USC will be tampering. Lincoln Riley's coming after the players, and just deal with it. And from all the action that we had on our show afterwards, after the Pac-12, after the USC game, it's good to be hated again. We love all your vitriol. It just goes to show that when USC loses, we're back. And I love it. Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, Rick.
Thanks, Rick, for being on. All right, Tide Guy, final thought, and where can people find you?
I'll tell you what, it's a really sad day. I hate the first Saturday in December. It means football's done. All we got left is bowl games and play. I mean, it just seems like we just started this here a few weeks ago, and already the season's over, and now, we're getting to wrap it up. And, I hate this time of year because I know, we're about a month away from no more college football, and that's sad times. But everybody can find me on Tide Guy. Every Monday, I do a Sports Jeopardy, and then on Thursday, I do Trivial Pursuit. It's at 10 p.m. Eastern. You guys can come and find me anytime. Most of the people on this panel come in and out and play both trivia and Sports Jeopardy, so check me out some night and laugh at these guys answering some questions. Great show, everybody.
Nice to see you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate you.
Yep.
All right, Mike, thanks for being part of our panel and for joining the Patreon. Final thought, where can people find you?
Well, you can't find me anywhere except on Mark's channel, just being in the peanut gallery. So
there it is.
I'm not a social media person, but I just wanted to come on here because, like I said, I'm brand new to Patreon, so I figured I'd join the panel. It's like a cutting my teeth type thing, hang out with you guys because having fun. And I just want to thank you for having me.
Well, in that case, thank you, and go Blue, of course.
Go Blue. You guys have a good one.
Absolutely.
Later,
well, so you can find Mike Fort though on Voice of College Football, calling in during the call-in shows, giving great insights. So that's something you can absolutely see. Hey, Will.
Hey, sorry, my connection was terrible.
Welcome back.
What's going on?
Just in time for final thoughts and where can people find you. So how about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I was getting all black boxes for a while in the circle, so I was like, But yeah, you guys can find me over at Will ND and also Young Guns, a show that I do with a couple other guys. So yeah, it's really fun. I love this community. If you're considering joining the Patreon, it's a really good decision. So that's where I met all these wonderful people. So yeah, Patreon's a great decision if you're considering it. Great Christmas present as well with Christmas coming up. So yeah.
Absolutely. Just putting the Young Guns in the channel here.
Thank you.
So you can check them out. Check out Will's, subscribe to Will ND. We do, you guys do panels. I got to be on one yesterday, which is really cool. So definitely check out the some of the stuff that he's doing with his own stuff and the Young Guns. There's some really quality football content going on there. Thanks, Will. All right, Jordan, you are up. Final thought, where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Jobo0209 on Twitter. I post mostly, Clemson stuff, but, I think I'm pretty funny sometimes. So if you want to give me a follow, then that'd be great. I'm also the co-host on the Clemson Voice of College Football channel. We do pregame and postgame shows every week. Probably going to do a lot more off-season content starting in January, and so be sure to sub that up. We just hit 4,000 subscribers on that channel, so all you guys in here that sub that channel up, hit the like button over there. We really greatly appreciate it. And once again, thank you guys for having me. It's been a lot of fun doing this show. Make sure you guys hit that like button for Mark if you haven't already, and hit the notifications, whatever you want, whatever you have to do, so you know when we go live. So I'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you, as always, for being part of the panel. Ben, we have had some real great Wolverine representation tonight, and Ben, thank you for being a part of that. Final thought, where can people find you?
Thank you, John. I'll tell you, people can find me here on Mark's channel. Really hoping that we play Ohio State again this year and beat them. So that's where you can find me, and I'll be talking my smack. And really, we talk a little bit in the Patreon. So if you want to be part of that, come there. We have a good time. We can't be overstated how much fun we have over there. So you guys have a good night.
Absolutely. Have a great night. I just posted the Patreon for those of you who have not joined yet. It's only $5. You get to hang out with all of us and do this kind of stuff every day. And you can and those Buckeyes and others who say, why do you have so many Michigan people on the panel? Well, guess what? You as a Buckeye or whatever team you're on, it doesn't matter what team you're on. You can be part of the panel if you join the Patreon. You can be part of our next show. All right, Tim.
Well, I mean, I think Rick said it all. He named off all the shows and things, but you can join me anytime with your hilarious jokes and smack talk here at my Twitter. I love all my DMs are always open, so Some of you guys are pretty darn clever, and I enjoy it. I met a lot of good friends through Twitter. Just keep it coming. I'm having a great time, and I'm having a great time for this season. 4-8 to 11-2. All those guys in Oklahoma told me that we were going to suck. Well, we didn't suck, and I'm just really excited about the holiday seasons. Everyone, I'm not sure what your religious beliefs are or what you celebrate, but I know all those good Trojan fans, we will be waiting for Portal Claus to come by and bring us all of our presents this year after our 11-2. It's going to be a beautiful Portal Christmas. I can't wait. And again, so much to say about this year. We still have the bowl games, but I appreciate John and Ben. You guys get us all together, and Mark give us a platform. And thanks everyone for showing up, and I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Tim. All right, Tony.
Hey, I just want to thank everybody who's been joining us for the USC post-game shows this year. We've had so many great folks from all different schools. We've had Michigan folks, and we've got Oregon State folks, and Washington folks, and Cal folks, and Stanford folks, and just from everywhere, even though it's the USC post-game. And we really, really, really appreciate having all you guys, because it's a lot of fun. We love getting to know you guys. And we're going to be cheering for all your teams in the bowl games. So everybody enjoy this season. Don't stress about all of this, every last rumor you hear. Don't believe most of the nonsense you read on Twitter, and just enjoy the bowl season. We'll see you guys. Fight on.
There you go. Fight on. Absolutely. Just posted Tony's Twitter and also a bunch of the channels and people's Twitter. So please follow everybody and subscribe to everybody's stuff. Everybody has been dedicating their time. They do this out of love for the game. So it's really appreciated, and please give them all a subscribe and follow and everything else. All right. And we have, so Will, we talked about you. We have you, we talked about you. So we're going to, great to see you as always, Will. So we're down to us.
Don't worry, John. You carry the show every week, especially like the last couple of weeks while I've been gone. But yeah, to everyone here, of course, it's the end of the regular season. The championship season's over. But like Ty Guy said, next week, people forget about the Army-Navy game. Check it out next Saturday. It has its own platform. At least watch it. Give it a shot if you've never watched it, for the pageantry and just for the cadets and all those people involved with the game, because it's quite a ceremony. But to everyone here that's watched the show, we appreciate it. We're going to discuss what we're going to do coming up, because bowl season, we're going into that kind of awkward time. So you will be getting the notifications and everything, and on Twitter and on YouTube, for what we're going to do in the upcoming weeks. But again, everyone, please check out Tony, Tim, and Rick, because they host the Pac-12 show. I'm sure they're going to be doing bowl previews. I'm going to be on the Oregon post-game show, probably after our bowl game, maybe at least on the pregame, because I'll be traveling during our bowl game again. Damn it. But anyways, yeah, I'm Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam. You can find me here. I just posted the link. Check it out. It's not sports related. I appreciate it all, but we appreciate you guys, because you guys in the chat are what really makes this channel run. And join the Discord and chat with us all the time. And then you can also join in on the panel with us weekly or when we go live, because we notice it, we post it, and everyone can come in if they want. So, John, I'm going to back out, and we're going to let you just have your moment in the big spotlight.
Oh boy, I'm gonna back my computer up slightly. So I did also. Yeah, please subscribe to Exploring with Ben and Sam. I also put the link there. Also the Oregon football, the voice of college football, that he does the post game shows and everything else. So that link's there too. Definitely check him out, and all the insight and analysis there. As for me, I'm John Diadamo, aka One Scoop John. So you can find me obviously here at Voice of College Football, as well as Golden Blue Dude. I'm on usually once or twice a week with Joey Foster. We just did the Michigan Purdue game yesterday and basically live streamed the whole thing and talked about it, and that was a lot of fun on Golden Blue Dude. And then I also been doing all season D4 Sports Michigan review preview. So check those out, break down game film and everything else. It's a great time. But on behalf of everybody here, I want to thank the panelists, and I want to thank everybody who has dedicated any time to come in, check this show out. We were trying something new this year, you know, like Ben had a dream, and we all were just part of it. And we said, you know what, let's rock it out. Let's see if this thing can have legs. And man, has it had legs. And it's because of all of you in the chat, all the Patreon supporters and everything else. So thank you so much. Please subscribe if you haven't, like if you haven't, and join the Patreon. And that's it for me tonight. Thank you all so much, and good night, and go Blue.